So I started Towers of Midnight, and since Sanderson has taken over, the introductions or the prologues have been so effective and so fun to read in comparison to Jordan's. Now, did Jordan's lay some amazing clues and some really fun and detailed adventures that shrouded in mystery? Yeah, and he's a master of that. But Sanderson seems to have a lot more relevance to that individual story. Whereas Robert Jordan's, they seem to be, again, meandering is the word I always use. And they build the world perfectly, but sometimes we don't get a payoff from them at all. And sometimes we don't get a payoff for several books from that entry. So which is better? It's hard to say. Without the mysticism of Jordan's introductions, we wouldn't have had such an invested interest in what's coming several books down the line. But seeing as we're at the end, Sanderson's are so fun to read. So we start this book with Bulin, and Bulin finds Lan on his journey to the last battle. Now, Malkia is the country that Lan is the king of, but Malkia is no more. So a lot of emotion from these people who are from that land originally is tied to Lan, because Lan is the personification of the country that was destroyed and left behind. And there is a lot of emotion from these people tied to Lan. He is their avatar, he is their king, he is Malkia. And we get some fun scenes in the first 200 pages or so of this book of people joining Lan against his will. He's like the reluctant king. He doesn't want to lead these people into battle, but Nynaeve has spread the word and there's nothing he can do to stop them. And I had such a big smile on my face when I was reading about how they were joining our boy Lan. Next up, we get Graendal, and we're told throughout the entirety of the series that Graendal is cunning, she's smart, nobody is more wily than her, but I truly did believe that she was dead in the last book. However, she has survived. And now it appears she's at maybe her most dangerous. She has none of her servants. She has no weapons, or, she didn't until Moradin gives her something. She also has no castle or lair to run out of. And now she also is in the bad books of the Dark One, it would seem. However, Rand thinks of her as dead, and probably that means everyone else assumes she's dead as well. So she's actually at her most dangerous. But it would appear she's going to be pointed at Perrin rather than at Rand. She kind of fluffed her shot at Rand. And I was thinking, this book is going to be about Perrin. Mat and Rand, they've really taken on their roles as heroes and taken on their role as leaders of people. They are resigned to the fact that they're going to have a huge say in the battles to come, and they let it rest on their shoulders well. Now, arguably, Rand has been going insane with the responsibility, and Mat hasn't enjoyed it, but they both understand and accept that they are going to be leaders of people, no matter how stressful it is. Perrin has not accepted this, and that's why this book is going to be focused around Perrin, in my opinion, and it has been so far. So, with Graendal pointed at Perrin, that probably means our finale is going to be some kind of Graendal and Perrin interaction. And one-on-one, obviously Perrin's going to lose. Like, you can't win unless it's in Teleran Riord or in the dream world, right? But I think that Graendal is so cunning and wily that Perrin's directness and honesty may throw her off. I think she may be trying to predict what he's going to do, where he's going to go, based on someone who has, it's not that he doesn't have battle intelligence, but he's just not snakish, and she is. So I think that might be her undoing, is she may expect him to do something that he just doesn't do. In the end, he just does the most direct and honest approach possible, and I think that could work in his favor. So Graendal is given a dream spike. Do I know what a dream spike is? No. But it would suggest that you are able to do something in dreams. So maybe when Perrin is in the wolf dream, Graendal will be able to travel there and kill in the dream effectively with the spike. I don't know what it does, but just from the name, it would sound like that. So the only way that Perrin would be on level playing field is in the wolf dream. And he's trying to master that now with Hopper. So if my clues and my intuition is correct, I would say that those two will meet in the dream world, and that's where that's going to be hashed out, because it is more of a level playing field, because Perrin cannot access the source and cannot channel. And then a couple of books ago, I had said I'd given up on Padan Fain. I was frustrated with him, angry. He's one of the coolest, most mysterious characters. And he was just gone. And he'd flash in for like a chapter and then flash out. And I was just frustrated. And I was like, I'm done with him. However, as soon as I read his name on the introduction pages, I was hooked again. It's like that ex that you say you're done with, but whenever they text you, like, I'm coming back. That Padan Fain is that to me. He's so interesting. Who is Mordif? How is he about? Why is there so much hatred for the Dark One, but also the light side as well? And we haven't got many pages left for me to get a full explanation. So I hope I do. If I do not get a full explanation, then I am definitely going to do the deepest dive anybody could do into fan theory and maybe just ideas on the internet as to Mordif, Padan Fain, and just I need to know more about this character. He is the character that intrigues me the most of any character of this series. And he also hates the Dark One, so could we get the world's biggest plot twist and have Padan Fain murder the Dark One? I mean, it can't happen because the dragon has to defeat the Dark One, but maybe he kills Moradin or something like that. Maybe he does some good. Not on purpose, but just because he is rogue. So then we have Rand. And Rand essentially helps the apples grow in the orchard. And it was such a good metaphor. After so much bad that's happened around Rand, it was amazing to have him doing some good and to be really just helping the people again. Initially, good things would happen around him. It would be some bad as well, but good things. And in the last book, because of his temperament and touching the Dark One's power, I believe that's what caused the food to spoil. And that's what caused things to be going rapidly badly around him. Obviously, it was actually the Dark One's influence, but Rand touching the Dark One's, the source of the Dark One, and becoming someone very soulless, Darth Rand, as a lot of people have referred to him, which I loved, by the way. I think that accelerated things around him. I think Rand is actually at fault for that, because surely that influence just happens wherever the Dark One's influence is strongest. And I think Rand was causing a lot of that problem. So now that he is, a new man, now that he's had an epiphany, now that he's enlightened, he's helping things grow again. And there really is hope for the world. So Rand goes and meets Egwene, and I thought that was going to be an absolute disaster, but actually I quite enjoyed the meeting. Egwene tried her best. Rand is the dragon, and he told her, hey, listen, I'm going to go and break the Dark One's seals. Was she happy about it? No. But was she a stubborn, unmoving, illogical Aes Sedai of the very early books? Absolutely not. I actually think that Egwene is going to be an incredible Amelin. But how on earth is he going to convince everybody that breaking the seals is a good idea? Well, I think there's a couple of ways. Maybe Min can have a viewing. Maybe Egwene can have a foretelling. But I think much more likely and more poetic is they're going to have to decide that they just have to trust the boy that they grew up with. And I would much prefer that. I think that would be more beautiful, and I'd prefer to read that version. A realization that he is Rand, he's not just the dragon, and that we need to trust him. That would be good. I would be a big fan. And then we have Masaana still loose in the castle. Now, Masaana is someone who I still have absolutely no clue who she could be. I'm going to be completely blindsided by who she is. And I was trying to figure out how she could beat the oath rods, the fact that everybody else had unsworn the oaths and then resworn the oaths to prove that they're not a dark friend. And I was thinking potentially by touching the source, the Dark One's source, maybe she can get around that. Like, I don't fully understand that source, but it seems to have different rules to Saidar and Saidin. So I believe that Masaana may have been able to overcome that quite simply, so she still could be like any of those sisters in the tower. But the big news is Perrin. So Perrin is leading his army, reluctantly still, which is so frustrating, but I've already talked about that. And then Galad is leading the White Cloaks. I've grown to really like Galad. I kind of wish that my moral compass was as firmly set as Galad's, because I feel like life would be so simple. Your level of self-esteem would be so high because you just always do what you believe to be objectively right, even if you don't want to do it. So your level of certainty in yourself and your level of satisfaction with your life must be so high. And the more I read Galad, the more I like Galad. And the more I read Perrin, the more frustrated I get with him. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not that I don't like our boy Perrin. I do. But I am very frustrated with his reluctance to just take on his role in this world and in this last battle. And I'm sure that's what this final book is about, is him overcoming that. So we have an issue. The big issue is that Perrin killed, is it Bornhold's father? And that was a long time ago. I don't remember the ins and outs of things, but the White Cloaks have rarely been in the right. So I think hopefully the truth will come out and Galad will realize that Perrin is not the bad one. He's not who they should be looking towards to execute, because where I'm at in the book now, about 200 pages, they're on the precipice of battle on the next day. However, there's a few things that come into play here. Number one, Morghese. If Morghese figures out that it's Galad, then surely a reunion is going to be important. I don't know what she'll be able to do, but she will have some kind of sway over Galad, even though he's probably one of the most unswayable characters. But it would be nice to see a reunion of Morghese and Galad. I think that would be an interesting dynamic for sure. Another thing is, based on the timeline, I don't think in Perrin's timeline that Nynaeva's come and grabbed Tam yet to help Rand with his epiphany. So maybe that will throw a spanner in the works, you know, maybe more Nynaeve will come across, maybe she brings news, maybe something that she brings will change the game over there. But obviously that battle can't go ahead. We can't have two of our best characters and leaders attacking each other before the last battle. So we need some kind of resolution. The only other thing I can think of is a third force or a third party joining the field, maybe some Trollocs, maybe that Shido, that group of Shido, and that will force our boys to unite even for a short period of time, and then the truth can come out. The only issue is that either Perrin or the White Cloak, I think it's Bornhold, whose father was murdered by Perrin, like one of them has to die. So that's going to be difficult to overcome. But if it can be proven that the White Cloaks were acting immorally or against logic previously, then Galad will be the first one to execute one of his own for a problem like that. So I'm hoping there's going to be a simple solution, and my guess would be Morghese is going to be involved. And then we go back to Mat, and I must say a lot of Mat's chapters are much more Mat-like now. I think Sanderson is getting a bit of a grip on it. Maybe when the books first came out, like the 12th one that I just read, there was probably some feedback for him from the readers about that, and I can definitely see a noticeable change between that last one and then Mat in this one as well. So I've been enjoying reading Mat. A little side note, I think everything is pointing towards Moiraine and Tom having a bit of a romance, because Tom just keeps on reading that letter over and over and over again, and I didn't notice any romance between them, but I bet if I went back and read now, I feel like I would. So a Tom and Moiraine romance is something that I would absolutely be a huge fan of. And I was just thinking, like, imagine if those two were your parents. I don't know how, if Aes Sedai have children or how their magic affects that, and the oaths, etc., and how channeling affects that. I'm not too sure. I can't remember any references to it, but I'm sure there is. But I couldn't imagine how well-rounded you would be as a person if you had Moiraine and Tom as your parents. It would be the dream, right? And then, of course, the Golem strikes. The Golem is deadly. It is a stalker in the night. It is nigh on unbeatable, except for the amulet, the Foxhead amulet that Mat has. So the only way they're going to kill this thing is if they, number one, they have to lure it somewhere, they have to trap it, and I think maybe you'd have to put the amulet like on the end of a spear or on the end of an arrow, and then drive that into the Golem's body somehow. But that just seems so difficult, and I don't think it's a stretch of the imagination to think that a lot of people are going to die before they manage to get that done, because the Golem is clearly the most fearsome one-on-one fighter that we have seen outside of outside of nobody. Like it's completely deadly, it's completely invulnerable, and it doesn't move or obey physics. So when we're talking to physical battle, it's kind of unbeatable. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they manage to get that amulet into the Golem to defeat it, unless they can figure out how to change its allegiance, but I think that's unlikely. However, it did mention that there's like 4 or 5 Golems total. I think that was mentioned at some point, so I'm sure that they're going to be involved in the final battle. So the Golem, a very interesting storyline. Varin's letter, a very interesting storyline. However, I do wish that these storylines could just get out of the way and we could let Mat get on with the Tower of Genji. I'm a little bit worried that we're going to get to the end of this book and we're still not going to be there. And I'm going to have to wait until the next book to read it. But yes, the Tower of Genji is something that even before the last book, it was the most exciting storyline and the storyline that I was most looking forward to. Now, I didn't realize that Egwene's storyline and Rand's were going to come to such glorious conclusions in the last book. You know, that was amazing and I didn't expect that. But please give us the Tower of Genji in this book. Please, Sanderson. So my question for you is a bit of a random one, but it got me thinking because I was thinking about Moiraine and Tom, if they are a couple, which would be amazing. I might be completely wrong. And then what I said about having two parents. And my question for you is, if you could have two parents from the Wheel of Time universe, and I suppose you can choose any two, but bonus points if they are a couple anyway, or they have a love interest, who would you choose and why? And the more I thought about it, the more I'd stick with Moiraine and Tom. They're both very loving. Although Moiraine isn't like super fun, she's more fun than most Aes Sedai is. She's more realistic. And then Tom Merrilin, he could teach me to juggle, he could teach me to fight, and he could tell me the best bedtime stories. And I just feel like I would be such a well-rounded and impressive person if I had them as my parents. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Who would you choose as your parents if you could from the Wheel of Time universe? And the last thing I will say is, and I never normally comment on my surroundings, I just moved apartment. The acoustics are a little bit strange in here. I'm not too sure if I like the background like this. I might change things again. I almost definitely will change things again, but I thought I'd just do a little caveat and explain that I have just moved. I appreciate your patience and things will look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing in the next video. Please like and subscribe. I'll see you next Sunday at 10 Central. Have a good one.